Is this it? Is this it? Like, am I done watching this?
You're streaming, right?
Yeah, I'm streaming.
Okay,
Poyo,
okay,
hold on, Poyo.
okay. Okay. I'm gonna
All
temper
right,
my
let's
words.
just
Like,
first off, let's just say what was good about the game. Like, let's just say what was good.
well, they're
What
doing
was
big
good?
changes to approaching content, and I'm happy that they're actually trying that.
You're so you're
Gear
so you're
tiers,
so smart. You are so smart.
Armor 3.0. I expected that, honestly. That's not a surprise. I'm like, okay, Armor 3.0, let's go. Gear bonus, like set bonuses. I expected that. That was coming at some point. Cool. Um, some of the basically what I saw from Edge of Fate is we're playing Metroid. We are playing Metroid Prime. You turn into a ball and you go into crevices. We are playing Metroid. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with it being Metroid. Whatever. What are they doing with Renegade? What is going on there? Mark, Mark,
I
Mark,
had the same
Mark.
reaction. Does that not
What the
feel like
like?
cash
Okay,
grabby?
no, no. Was is this so? All right, right. We had that Star Wars collab already, right? Cool. Is this them going full like is that just them adding Star Wars weapons to an expansion that feels like a Star Wars story? Because
Yes.
that is smart as hell. That's smart as hell.
You find it you
That's
okay,
more what
so
it felt like to me.
you find it
It didn't feel like, oh, we're doing Star Wars in Destiny, right? It felt more like, yeah, we're doing the space western style. We're also bringing in Star Wars collab again. That's what it looked like to me.
well, because that was a
Before I
big
did my
money
first one.
that was a big money maker for them. I'm not my thing is I'm not mad that they're doing a side story with Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You're a huge Star Wars fan.
But
It's a
see,
big
this is the
deal.
misconception. That's the misconception. I don't think it's a Star. I don't think it's. Oh, by the way, the Star Wars universe just so happens to also be into Destiny. No, that's not what it is, right?
No, no, that's not what it is.
What I think it is. So if that's
It's a collab. It's a collab. It's story
it feel
elements
it,
that are
it's story elements
similar. Yeah,
borrowed from Star Wars style, right? So I'm thinking something more along the lines of a Mandalorian style story, right? Not not Jedi and all of that. I'm thinking more Mandalorian, more bounty
yeah.
hunter, like space western. Perfect, right? Wait, hold on. But they just so happen to also be doing a second collab with Star Wars and actually bringing weapons this time. I think that's the better way to do that, right? It's like, yeah, they kind of threw it in there saying, and it looks like a Star Wars thing completely. I'm not going to say it's not, because and the possibilities that it is actually
Yeah, but
Star Wars
it's
shit
locked
is
behind.
crazy.
It's locked behind a paywall.
Yeah, but that's that. So you didn't hear what they said. So all seasons are now free. So you basically are just you're getting a major update that's gonna actually add shit that's not gonna be taken out the game. That's the plan. So it's not
So what are we paying for exactly? Because that's what I was confused about. They didn't
the
show any.
expansions.
All right,
The expansions.
is Renegades not an expansion?
It is.
It is an expansion, so we're paying for that.
Yeah, it is. So it's two expansions a year. That's what they're doing. So instead of getting one major expansion and then 3 or 4 seasons, now it's here's an expansion that launches alongside a season, and then a month and a half or 2 months later, here's a major update that also adds content, not story content per se, but something like new activities, maybe a new destination, depending on what's going on in the world. They said that they're bringing back the Plague Lands. That is the area from the fucking Cosmodrome in Rise of Iron, Mark. That is
Yeah,
from D1. We
yeah.
were we were expecting. So you know what that means to me?
Pyramid
It's
Maker
possible we're
says,
getting Wrath of the Machine is most likely going to end up returning
"I would
to
love that.
Destiny
I would
2.
love that
And
because I'd never played that
I
raid."
because if you bring my whole thing is if you're bringing back the Plague Lands, it makes sense to bring back that raid because now you're adding back the areas. Perfect.
Pyramid says,
I'm happy with that.
give us a stormtrooper weapon that isn't allowed to land.
Okay.
You can't
Okay.
you can't hit
Okay.
anything. It's
Okay.
just fucking.
Now, I feel like the character Lodi looks
Like Shao
too
Kahn.
normal. He looks too normal.
He does.
No.
He does.
He's a dude with glasses.
Yeah, he does.
You know what I mean?
But
He
come
just looks like a
on,
dude.
dude. You like what?
No,
What?
but I'm not
What?
saying that's a
What?
bad thing.
What?
I'm not saying that's
I'm
a
not saying
bad
a
thing.
bad
I
thing
want you to-
either.
No, listen. Think about all the other characters in the game, right? So the most normal looking character is who? Ikora. And even Ikora
No,
looks a certain way.
it's the Hunter Vanguard from the Cosmodrome.
Oh, you're not wrong about that. But he also gives me that vibe of like just dude. But Lodi looks more like just dude. You know what I mean? He looks like he's gonna be a funny guy. And I hope he's not. I hope they're not trying to do another Cade kind of thing. You know what I mean? I don't want him to just be a funny guy. No, I want him to be like.
Is I never trust
I want
these
him to-
things
I
that
want-
don't showcase a big number of like gameplay. We got to see the traversal stuff.
They never show off a lot of gameplay
So
off the first reveal.
Yeah, so
They
the
never show
so
OD.
the traversal stuff is cool.
The matter spark shit.
The
Bro, it's
yeah,
Metroid.
the traversals.
It's the morph ball.
Yeah.
It's literally the morph ball. And you know what, Mark? I'm gonna be honest about it, right?
That's fun. That's fun. But
that doesn't. You know why that doesn't? You know why that doesn't bother me? Because it always felt like when they first said, "Oh, the code name Apollo is a non-linear expansion." Think of something more like Metroid. They fucking took that and said, "Hey, if we're doing a Metroidvania, we might as well add the morph ball."
Yeah,
and
but
I think that's so. Like, I'm not mad at that because that's like cool to me. That's like, all right,
mad.
you gave us an ability from a character from a fucking series I am a very big fan of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I love the Metroid games.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Actually, I don't. Here's I guess my thing is like.
I'm just scared that it's not going to be good enough. That's my fear. It's the apprehension. It's the fear that if I play this expansion, it don't hit.
So
it don't hit. I'm scared.
So I'm not. I always felt that traversal needed a light overhaul, and the reason I say that is because there were some of the traversal stuff did feel like not fun. Even though you had your vehicle, you had your Sparrow, and you could do cool stuff like that, and now you have the skateboard, right, stuff like that. But
sorry to cut you off. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
You good?
Speaking about bringing up vehicles, the Griffin. We got a new vehicle.
Yeah, a combat vehicle. Finally, yeah.
So you know what that means, right? So they're giving us the ability to play with Briggs. The Briggs.
Yeah, that mode is that mode is cool. That mode is really cool. I thought that mode was cool.
Do you understand what that means? This is the first step to getting combined arms, which is the large maps, longer distances, and vehicles. Sparrows, fucking skimmers, griffins, tanks, pikes, interceptors. They're gonna add all of that. See, that's my thing. That was in D1. It felt like Team Slayer in Halo, where you're in a big ass map, you have vehicles everywhere, you can just jump in and just fucking fight. That's what is. I think that's the first step to that. I'm all the way cool with that.
No, not wrong with that. I was happy to see that game mode. I was happy to see
that's something super unique and something that looks fun.
The range, I was like, oh, the range is cool. I was like, oh, I think that the range is. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's like a fucking concept that I was like, oh, wow, this is necessary. Like, why haven't we had this? Why haven't we had this already?
We had a shooting range before.
That did like damage counting and like build testing.
It was from a season, so it went away.
Like as someone who's fucking as dumb as I am, those things help me a lot because it allows me to know what I'm doing instead of going into the fucking. I like to do that. I like to test shit and see what will work and what doesn't. I never had that in Destiny 2 outside of like going out into the world and testing it. But it just
into the world.
It took time.
When they had the quote unquote shooting range, you weren't playing at that time.
Yeah. So and they
So
took it.
that's
They,
what I'm
t-
saying.
they,
So
they
you
took
so
it
you
fucking
wouldn't have
away.
ever experienced that in Destiny because to you that wasn't ever a thing because
Yeah.
you didn't know about that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Is that gonna? Does that bring me back 100%? Not necessarily.
Not
But
necessarily, right?
I think there's a lot
Why she quit.
to be
It's-
said here about like what's cool. But one thing I do want to say is that I'm fearful of is that Destiny is creating amalgamated characters, or they're creating an amalgamated story almost. And why do I say that is because the separation of, and I know they've already said that they wanted to go away from the classes and put everything together for you to be able to build, so that way every character is unique for you. I get that. I'm not necessarily mad about that, but as a gamer, as a streamer, as a content creator, as someone who's been playing for a long time now, and you as well, we've seen the way that when games create amalgamated characters, the individual things that you could do as a class does not feel unique. You eliminate the uniqueness of things because people are just going to create builds that are
Prismatic,
meta.
you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's just gonna be meta. It's all
So
gonna
my whole
it's all
thing with
gonna it's all gonna run to meta. Now
My whole thing with Prismatic is that it is actually, yes, very, very, very strong. But the whole thing that I like is that there are a lot of abilities on the individual elements that are not present in Prismatic that actually do fundamentally change how the class feels, right? So for
Yeah.
example, you cannot you can't have Icarus Dash on Prismatic. Icarus Dash makes that fucking Warlock feel so good. Like
Yeah.
you feel great sometimes. You can dodge, you can fly forward, like you have momentum.
Yeah, but we're
And
not saying
the whole thing with that is what I like that Destiny has done is that they have stuck by their choice of having the three classes. They have not melded the three classes at all, really.
yeah,
Like,
but now
besides,
yeah,
oh,
but
yeah,
now
they
the
gave- look,
yeah,
every
but now
class
the
can use every single grenade, and like that's different, right?
But now the classes. The thing is the classes are leaning more into being this like one androgynous thing, right? So that way you can create your own. That you can create what's tailored to you. I think that's where their concept is at. Is that they want to give the player the ability to tailor and craft their own unique class, almost make it so that way they are creating their guardian. Their guardian is unique to what
Pretty
they're.
much.
But I think when you do that, though, you are going to, if not done correctly, are going to funnel players into creating solo meta build. Like solo meta, everyone running the same thing type of shit. Amalgamating,
that's
amalgamating the meta.
happen, though.
Yeah, but how the thing is like
That's always gonna happen.
yeah, but
So,
when
for example,
yeah,
there was a point in time.
but the Trinity, right? Tank, healer, damage dealer. I'm not saying you have to do that here. I'm saying why has the Trinity worked for so long? Because it forces a player to put themselves into a role, right? So the longer I've played games, and I'm gonna allow you to give your point because I know that you're brewing something, and I'm gonna let you say it. But when you force a player to learn to play something, when you force a player to learn something, it creates a better experience because they feel more rewarded, right? Why have tank players played tank? They were forced into that position. Or why have healers healed? Because they have forced into healing and they learn how to play it. There's a fine line between actively curating an experience for players, and then forcing a player to learn. I feel like this and what they're doing is curating an experience for a player. Sorry to like go into a tangent, but how would you like to see it?
So pretty much what it seems like they're doing is they're trying to hammer home like, hey, we're listening. We're trying to take the feedback that you've given us. And I'm gonna
Oh,
be honest.
yeah,
There's a
hammering
few
home.
things that they brought up. There's a few things that they brought up that actually have been things that the community have asked for.
Like
And you know what? The firing range is one of them.
firing range.
There was something that like
They keep
basically like
referencing time, like the
making
time,
making
like
making
being a thing about
making
time.
your time, yeah, making your time be respected in a way that feels like, okay, I don't have that much time, let me just jump into this solo. Oh, they also said one big thing: you can do the pinnacle grind on just PvP if you want to. That right alone gives half of the player base their their opportunity to not have to do PvE content unless they want to. They can just play PvP now. And I think that's good. That's a good thing. That's something people have asked for. Make make it worthwhile for people who just want to play PvP in this game. There's people who don't like story games. There's people who just want to shoot people in cool ways. Let that happen. Let people be able to progress their power by just playing PvP. And that's what they did. They're trying to get it looks like they're trying to give the players the say in how they progress through the game. Because rather than say, okay, do 3 strikes, do 3 crucible matches, do 3 gambit, do your all your powerfuls, do your pinnacles, this, that in the process, right? Rather than doing that, now it's play whatever the fuck you want to play. You want to play PvP only for the next 2 weeks? Go play PvP only. It's not going to hinder your progress.
And
That makes it so that approaching content doesn't feel like, oh damn, I really want to play PvP today, but I really need to get my dailies and weeklies done. You know what I mean? Like you're
yeah,
not forced into the daily cycle that we have been forced into for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years.
doesn't feel like a
Like
chore. You're not wrong.
well, we don't know exactly how it's gonna feel yet.
So
You know what I mean?
yeah,
But from what it seems like, it doesn't seem like they're trying to make it feel like it's less of a chore. That's kind of where I was going with that. Like that was a great word for you to use because it kind of feels like they're trying
oh
to
no,
make it
I
feel
didn't use
like
it. That
less
was
of a
chat.
chore
That
to
was
get
chat.
shit
Chat said
done
that.
and
Chat said
make it more so where it's like, oh, I want to play strikes today. So doing strikes still nets me positive gain on my power. But then tomorrow, I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to play strikes no more. I just want to jump into Crucible and shoot people. You have every opportunity to go into Crucible and still normally raise up your power. That makes anything in the game worthwhile doing, basically. That makes it so you can do whatever the fuck you want.
so.
Instead of being forced to do strikes, forced to do gambit, forced to do PvP when you don't want to, now you have the agency, like they were saying, to do what you want. You choose.
Yeah, isn't so I the portal system reminds me of a lot of the dungeon finder from WoW, World of Warcraft, right? And I don't want to use no, I'm not going to take credit for what chat says. Chat is in chat, bro. So it we all encompassing here. So I don't want to use Destiny 2 or MMOs to describe.
Well, remember that Destiny previously have said that were trying to basically turn Destiny into something that uses MMO like
Yeah.
system.
So that's the thing.
And
Like
you know,
so, I get it. Like
they,
Destiny
they've done a little
feels
bit
like
of that.
it.
They've done
Yeah.
a little bit of that. I'll
Yeah.
give them that. They have actually they have set expectations for saying when they said that. It was like, oh, we're trying to turn it into something that can be kind of reminiscent of an MMO, not going full MMO, which is not what they were ever trying to do.
Yeah,
right?
but
Like,
of
course,
they're
and they
they're
have not gone full MMO,
they're too
but
far
they
gone.
have used certain systems.
Yeah, but they're too far gone. So what I was trying to say, Poito, was that
Man, this game.
I know that what I was trying to say, Poito, is that system portal reminds me a lot of like Dungeon Finders or LFGs in other MOBAs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, and in MMOs, as that system progresses and it becomes easier to get into activities, listen, you're not gonna fully make your player base happy all the time, right?
Never,
And
never.
you're never it's not a thing, but
It's
you're
not impossible, but it's hard.
you know
Very hard.
it's super hard. I mean, the WoW community is a perfect example of that. They're always fucking bitching, not disrespecting them.
Yeah, because
Not
you just also
disrespecting them, but
understand that.
they are always
Hold on, quick question.
bitching. They are always bitching about
How
everything.
old?
That's
How
why
exactly
there's like
old?
30 different versions of the game, right? There's classic, there's fucking
Right.
thing of discovery. There's mad different versions of the game.
Question:
Yes.
How exactly old is World of Warcraft?
Bro, the game was like in early 2000s, 2005, 2007.
Okay,
It's old as
so
fuck.
if it's a 20-year-old game, right? So I want you to think about it like this: in 20 years, you have people who have poured in time and money over those 20 years.
Yeah.
We have put 10 to 11 years into Destiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Over 20 years. Of course, you're going to have problems when they try new things because it's never always going to land. Destiny has had that problem. A lot of their shit don't land. But you know what? The shit that has landed has been some great content. Let's be honest. Destiny 1 Vanilla had a lot of problems, but I played that game a lot because it was fresh. It was something different. I had never experienced Destiny. You know what I mean?
I mean, it still feels
By Destiny,
it still feels a little different.
Then you hit the expansions for D1, then you hit Taken King, then you hit Rise of Iron, right? And over the course of those stories, it's like Destiny still it keeps what we like about it, the mystery and the quirkiness of Destiny. It's a very specific way of approaching things. The problem is because it's always been a specific way of approaching things, it gets stale. So after 5 years, they really didn't reinvent the wheel too much. When D2 launched,
No, so like
people were like, "Oh my god, the story fucking sucked." And nowadays, people are like, "Damn, I missed the Red War," because in hindsight, it's actually a really good story. It's actually really well done, and it's like they ripped it out the game. Like the developers at Bungie have strayed from what we had set up expectations wise, and they went in a direction that felt more like they weren't listening, you know, like they were doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do, and they would be like, "Oh, we hear you," and just sprinkle in those changes here and fucking there. They haven't reinvented the wheel.
No.
And it's why
I think that I think that Destiny's uniqueness is still there.
Hold on. Wait, it's why expansions like Witch Queen are so highly praised, because when you hit a story that fucking swings out the gate, keeps swinging, and then all of a sudden you're like 75% of the way through, and all of a sudden now we hit a grand slam, and now all of a sudden you're at 90% and it hits another grand slam, and then you're left there being like, wow, this expansion hit. All of a sudden it's, oh, so they can do good story. And then you hit Lightfall, right? Wait, then you hit something like Lightfall, and it's like, what the fuck happened?
What was the best part about Witch Queen? What was the best part about the Taken King?
Witch Queen.
No, what was the best part about Witch Queen and Taken King?
I'll
tell you mine, and then you could tell me yours, right? So I think for me personally, when Witch Queen dropped, that whole lead up was nothing but gameplay, was nothing but like, hey, listen, we're giving you updated light class, heavy story, updated light classes,
Bro, even the season right before it every
was
every
good.
single week had me on my seat, like, oh my god,
We're leading
Crow,
up. We're
everything with
we're leading up
Crow
to
and
this. Yeah,
Sabathun
yeah,
and the Crystal and this,
yeah,
and I'm like, and we already knew at that point that she was
yeah,
gonna get the light. It
yeah,
was just, how is it gonna happen? What's the situation? What's gonna happen? And
yeah,
Witch Queen dropped,
yeah. And it was a big deal. So yeah,
and the story was strong. This is
yeah,
the thing. The story. It felt like everything that came before, when it came to the Hive, mattered when it came to the Witch Queen story, right? It was like all of that setup really hit home right there. It was like, here is what we thought was impossible made possible. And
but
then,
they just showed a lot
people
of
who are not human or
gameplay.
human adjacent. But wait, people who are not human or human adjacent getting our powers, right? That was unthought of
Unthought of.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
So my whole thing with that is,
It put it on
even
its
though
head.
they spoiled it when they revealed Witch Queen, right? They spoiled that they get the light in Witch Queen, and it pissed me off that they did that. Even with that spoiler, there were 20,000 revelations in Witch Queen that completely shook the game and completely shook the lore.
Yeah, but
right?
That's the beautiful part about it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Point.
The biggest thing was that they showed a lot of gameplay.
It felt like everything that came before it actually paid off in those moments, and it worked because the story was compelling. It was like there was mystery, there was treachery, there was Sabathun fucking around with us the whole time, and then we beat the bitch, and then we find out about the witness, and then we fight Rogue. Like, it was such a fucking ride. It was like a roller coaster of craziness, of shit that we didn't even realize was the truth before. And then you hit Lightfall, and they completely dropped the ball. And then you hit Final Shape, and they once again do what they did with Witch Queen and actually make a meaningful, compelling story, and an actual.
Okay, but I will ask you this again: why? Not to take away from the gameplay, but it's because the boss, what was at stake, felt like it was at stake. The big bad, the big bad felt like she was like it. He felt like it was it, right? Sabathun felt like it. Sabathun felt like it was like it was it.
Dude,
it was they took the light, and I was like, what the fuck? It was crazy.
Day one Witch Queen, right? I remember that experience, right?
Day one Witch Queen. Day one.
Wait. The hard difficulty, the story unfolding in the way it did, and then them being like, oh my god, the Hive were lied to. They were meant to get the light first, and it was like, yo, what do you mean they were supposed to get the light before us? What do you mean? What are you talking about? That's impossible. Guess what? It wasn't. It was the truth. And that's what, like, the same way that Sabathun reacted to it was kind of how I felt about it. Like, impossible. There's no way they were decepted that hard.
Now let me ask you this.
Come on.
Now let me ask you this. Does this expansion
this is the start of a saga. It's never gonna hit as hard. What's gonna, if it hits, it will be when you get into this expansion, right? And you start learning information about why we're sent there, who we're sent specifically by, because they haven't mentioned that, and what's the intro idea as to why this matters and why what's happening next is going to happen. If that doesn't hit, then the expansion is not going to hit. It's not going to do what they wanted to do, which is bring people back.
The free stuff that they
and
offered,
introduce new players.
The free stuff, I think that's a good thing to talk about.
Being free content, seasons being free content that also do not leave the game is smart.
I think that's how
it should have been.
Yes, I think that's a good way to segue into that. I think the free stuff is a good push in the right direction. Though I do not like,
it
though I
feels
do
like
not,
it
I
feels
though
like
I
they're
do
putting.
not like.
It feels like they're actually putting a tiny bit of effort, not on the level of Final Shape, because like I said, this is now we're getting two small expansions, right? They said something bigger than Rise of Iron. Rise of Iron, I believe, had maybe 6 to 8 missions. Don't quote me on that because I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly how many. But if you think about it, 6 to 8 missions, right? Behind that, you have the seasonal story going on. How I see it is,
That's true. Chat says when they make free stuff, you have
it
to ask
doesn't
where they're gonna
need.
monetize next.
I mean, they're gonna monetize
The
the
skins,
fucking
yeah,
skins
skins for everything.
and they're gonna.
Ri-
That's all gonna still be monetized,
Rise of
regardless.
Iron had 8 missions, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Is that correct,
Okay.
Poyo?
Yeah. So that's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It was
That's
about 6 to 8 missions. Like I
Thunder.
said, don't
Yeah,
quote me on that exactly.
Thunder. Yeah,
But
Thunder.
my whole thing with Rise of Iron is that it was very early Destiny in the fact that like the story starts, the story stops.
Yeah.
My hope with this is that this doesn't feel like because from what it seems, it's not going to be self-contained, right? Like this
What do you mean?
leads like this isn't like okay, we're getting an expansion, but this story doesn't have relevance to anything coming next. Like
5 missions.
This is directly leading. So, like they said, they have a plan already, right? We don't know how many years they have a plan for. They didn't specify.
No.
I'm going to say about 5 years. This overarching story might last over 5 years.
Well, hopefully that the Guardian becomes the Guardian, not the Guardian. The Traveler is involved in some way, shape, or form. Because I don't want them to eliminate that as a story beat. And I like the fact that they're doing the 9 because the 9 was such a mysterious
the
group
9
of individuals
were in the universe before the Traveler got here.
Yeah, so that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah. Big thing because this means that these are forces that have been in play for God knows how long.
Yeah.
We don't know what their motivations are still. So that's my whole thing. If they can retain the feeling of what Witch Queen and Final Shape did for story, where it's like
mystery,
you're jumping into missions and learning shit that fucking shakes up our understanding of the universe as a whole, even physically and also lore wise.
Yeah,
that's how you make a good expansion.
Yeah, like what how did the 9 get locked up?
Is that possible?
Why are they?
Wait. Is it possible for Bungie to do good with that and be able to craft a good story? Yes. Is that what I see here? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, but it comes with scaling though. Like there has to be like the scaling. That becomes harder the longer the game. Hold on, that becomes harder the longer you have the game. Is the scaling?
Yeah.
The scaling between how big the bat is versus how small we are, right? And like the thing is like I think that the 9 are something that's interesting because they are primordial beings. Even older than what we know to exist, and they're not like and even and they're not and they're exactly that, and then they're not
in some regard.
They're not
like what
even the hive gods and even the hive gods, right? All of them and the
worm gods as well.
Hold on, fuck the worm gods. But what's the big bad the witness were tools of something. So eventually we're going to get
yes and no.
Eventually we're going to get the embodiments of what really created those tools, right? So that's like the whole end of that.
So I know you.
I do not want to forget about this point to ask you though. But I want to ask you this question, and you can continue on. There is a member of the 9 that we see during the trailer, right? This character.
Oh, the emissary.
The emissary.
I don't see what you're showing, but okay.
If you go on my my stream, you'll see it. Anyways, it's at the
You're talking
right.
about the emissary.
Yeah, it's talking about
I
the
know that.
emissary right at the end when she breaks free from whatever confines that she's in,
Control.
her control. Right, the character
My
itself,
will of my own.
the character itself looks like an amalgamated Titan with a hood and a cloak,
I see what you mean. So
right?
so you don't really know the story of the emissary. So the
No,
Drifter knows the emissary personally
we're
before they became the emissary.
we're we're on the tail end of that stuff, dude. We're on the tail end.
Yeah, but hold on. The Drifter knows the emissary personally before she became the emissary. I believe her name was Orin or Oren, one of those. And basically, he knew her personally. So what I think might be happening with her is maybe she's breaking free from the control of one of the 9 who was basically using her
and
as a
that
conduit.
and that
So her breaking
cool.
free is interesting because now I wonder, is she still Orin? Or is she someone, is she different? Has she been changed? So when she meets Drifter again, what's the story going to be there?
Yeah.
Because Drifter knows her.
Yeah.
So he has familiarity with this person.
Is
So
there
what's that going to factor into it? That's what I'm saying. There's setup here that can actually make for a good story. There's stuff there that I
ask you a question.
Because I read the lore and shit that I know
pertaining to that lore.
Up, but I don't know if it's gonna pay off, and I don't know if it's gonna hit because I don't know if I trust Bungie to start off new stories. That's my problem.
Pertaining to that lore, is there a Guardian who is a hunter by class who wore Titan armor?
Yeah. So put it like this: you ever realize that Lord Saladin has a hood?
Yeah.
He's a cape. Yeah. Guess what? There was a point in time where the classes did not exist. So there is, and also in lore, yes, the classes exist, but you also have to understand something. The light don't work like that.
Yeah.
Any Guardian can use any ability. For example, it's kind of the application of, like, think about it like this. Remember how Cade in Forsaken basically invented the blade dance?
Yeah.
I mean the blade barrage?
Yeah.
By adding solar energy to his blades and just flinging them at enemies. That's basically an application of the golden gun. But guess what? Any Guardian can use any of the powers. It's just the classes are made for specializations so that people can focus in on one thing. But I, as a hunter, I could go and do a shoulder charge in lore. That's a thing. For example, Ikora Ray does a void chaos reach. A void Kamehameha, basically.
Yeah.
In lore. But guess what? We only have a Nova Bomb in the game, and Chaos Reach is Arc. But in lore, their powers are like a lot more dynamic than people realize. Like a lot more dynamic. It's still one of those situations where, like, using Solar and Arc in conjunction isn't really a thing. Because there's, like, think about it like this. You know how we have cooldowns in game, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, like, how in lore some characters can do certain things very, very quickly after, like, for example, pop a super and then pop a different super right after? Well, guess what? That character just so happens to have more affinity or more power in general to be able to do 2 supers back to back. But because gameplay, guess what? You get tired, right? If you waste enough energy, you're gonna be tired, right?
Yeah.
That's what cooldown is.
Yeah.
That's that's basically you saying I gotta regen my strength. You know what I mean? That's the equivalent of Goku chilling out during the fucking tournament of power and not fighting for 2 seconds
To get his fucking strength back.
just to regen to get his strength back so that
Yeah.
he could put up. That's basically what the cooldowns are. The game has always had that limitation. But they brought up something where they said that there was a boon or a bane or something where basically you eliminate your like the ability to do your powered melees and get super regen on your grenades.
Oh.
So yeah, the way I think about it is people have always complained about that, but there's an actual reason as to why cooldowns make sense. And they try certain ways in the game to make cooldown shorter. Because yeah, I can't just Nova Bomb and then switch fucking class and then immediately Chaos Reap. But if I switch class, I have ways to shorten my cooldown.
Mm.
So even if I can't pop it right after, I can still swap out. Like the problem with Destiny is that in lore, things seem to work different than they do in game. So there's always that little bit of disconnect. But there are hunters with Titan armor. There's probably fucking hunters with Warlock. Wasn't Fellwinter actually did the headbutt, or I think it was the headbutt or the shoulder charge, and he's a quote unquote Warlock, but like the attitude of a hunter. Like Fellwinter was weird. Like the classes were, it was different back then. Like the armor
You'd
wasn't
be too
indicative
OP.
of class.
Yeah.
Like armor wasn't indicative of class. Like you,
All right.
like for example,
Let me ask you this. Hold on.
Eris Morn is a hunter, but she looks more like a warlock.
I only think about that because she got bewitched powers.
Right, but she seems more like a warlock, but she's a hunter.
So let me ask you this, just as a close off here, what are your goods and your bads? Simply put, your goods and your bads.
My goods is that, like, you know, it looks like they're doing some cool changes to the overall innards of the game, right? What's bad is that I don't know if it's going to be good because they don't have a good track record with starting off new stories. Destiny 1 Vanilla had problems. Destiny 2 Vanilla had problems. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Bungie can stick the landing. Now, we know what's another bad? The fact that I need to know more about what Renegade is. I feel like because it's the Star Wars, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's also the fact that they literally, like, whatever that destination is going to be reminds me of Tatooine. It reminds me of, like, it looks like we're going to some, like, casino style, like you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking Tatooine, I'm thinking the seedy underbelly of whatever this destination is. Like, what are the odds that this is on Mars, right? Like, it's like that. I think destination-wise, that makes a lot of sense. You got sand, you know what I mean? If this is a place on Mars, and we have this bounty hunter underworld aesthetic, and then you throw in the Star Wars weapons, what scoundrel is going to be our companion? What character? What Han Solo is going to be our guy? You know what I mean?
It's going to be one of the Fallen. I think that to close it out,
dude, that would be cool.
Yeah, I know.
Solo type with a
I
Fallen
know
companion.
I know it's a Fallen.
I know it's a
Fallen. I know it's a Fallen.
Right there. And you know what? I'm gonna say this right now. You get a Han Solo type as our guy, as our guide, right? With his companion can either be a robot or it could be a Fallen and be like a Chewbacca type. what
which
is these? What is the story? Why does that? Since they said that that pushes the narrative forward still, how does that? How does Edge of Fate lead into that? Is my point.
mm-hmm. Eventually,
That's what scares me. That's what it's like I'm curious, I'm intrigued in what the story is gonna be. But how the fuck does Edge of Fate lead into that? Like, is it possible that that's not Mars? That's also another new planet, right? Where there just so happens to be another civilization, but it's more like Tatooine, where it's this seedy, a wretched hive, dumb infinity. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. So
bounty hunters and
eventually,
corpse.
I think that they're gonna do races, but as to close it out,
Don't bring up SRL, bro.
yeah, as to close it out, I think that because they are taunting the idea of free content for the what's the word I'm looking for here?
Oh my God, Mark. Oh
What's
my
up?
God, Mark. Oh
What?
my God, Mark. Oh my God. The pre-order bonus.
I don't
Mark,
even want to
I'm
see
gonna
how much.
fucking
I
flip.
don't even want to see
I'm
how.
gonna
I don't even
flip.
want
I'm
to see
gonna
what.
flip.
I saw. I saw the pre-order bonus, and one of them is Darth Vader.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, and General
Yeah,
Grievous,
I
dude.
saw that. Yeah, I saw that. So
Oh my God. What the? Let me look at this Grievous. Oh my God, the Grievous is fucking.
so
Oh
I
my
would I
God.
would
Why
I
the
would
fuck? Why?
say
Why? Why?
don't
Why?
buy.
Why? Why? Why are they
Who
doing this to me?
Pollo?
Why are they hurting me? Why are they hurting me? Why? Why do I? Why?
This is
Why?
this is a
Destiny,
this
stop
is a
it! Stop
topic
it, Destiny, please, please.
and a weapon with slow ads. True. So no, this Boyle was talking about this for a while. So I got to give him his flowers on this. But I think if I was to just to close it out, I would say that for their prologue story, to give it as a free update
I mean, yeah,
right open right
that's like Into the
now.
Light, though.
Yeah, or right
Remember
now.
Onslaught?
Yes, but to give
Yeah,
that and then
that's
to and then
basically
to
what
and
that
then
is.
to give the dungeon updates, I just would say yes. It's good quality of life stuff. Willing just to go in. I'm just willing to go in. I'm not willing to give more time. I'm not willing to invest so much. I'm just willing to go in and say, look through the veil a little bit. Bad, too little, too late. Yeah, more grinding, which was the problem of the game. I'm just willing to look into the veil. Boyle, final thoughts in one sentence.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. It's the lack of faith, bro.